Welcome to the Natural Health Podcast, where we bring awareness of sustainable health in the business hustle space. The Natural Health Podcast is perfect for the high-performing, business-minded individuals who want to work with their biochemistry to achieve success and optimal health. It's Friday, which means it's time for Friends Sharing Facts about health, business, and overall success. In today's episode, we talk to Dr. Alyssa Runyon. Dr. Alicia graduated from the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College and started practicing just north of Toronto, Canada. After being out in the practice, she noticed that patients experiencing chronic stress did not heal as well as others not experiencing stress. This led to a 4-year deep dive into the clinical research on stress, the autonomic nervous system, genetics, epigenetics, and longevity. She works full-time out of her multidisciplinary practice, treating patients with traditional chiropractic and acupuncture treatments. Last year, she launched a 12-week online program that teaches people how to shift their focus from pain to the root cause inside their nervous system, as they can get back to moving pain-free. Program members have already experienced dramatic shifts in their health. She's also developed her signature vagus nerve treatment that has been proven to activate the vagus nerves and support the nervous system shifts her patients need to finally heal. Some interesting facts about Alicia is that she absolutely loves being surrounded by water all the time. Her and her husband actually have a boat on the Georgian Bay, which is a piece of the Great Lakes. She also loves to travel just out of the whim with nothing booked when she arrives in a foreign country, experiencing it, and also loves being on Pinterest, looking at all the minimalistic Scandinavian designs. Welcome to the Natural Health Podcast, Alicia.
Thank you so much for having me. That was an amazing introduction.
You're most welcome. So tell me about, when was the last time you went to a random country and just thought, no, nothing booked, I'm just going to go for it?
Probably the UK. I booked a flight to Scotland, like to Edinburgh, and then just booked a flight home from Ireland like 20 days later. And I had nothing booked when I got there. So it was like just crazy trying to navigate it, but I just love it because it's just spur of the moment.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the craziest thing would have been understanding their accent, right?
Yeah. And it's funny because they think that their accents are like different from other regions. They're like, oh, you're not going to understand like the English when you get down to England. And I'm going like, I can barely understand your Scottish. And in different parts of Ireland, it was the same way. I'm sure Australia is the same way.
Oh, I loved it. I remember being in Edinburgh, exactly, and being like, okay, so what bus do I take? And he was talking and I was like, I'm not understanding anything you're saying. Like, I felt so bad because I'm like, I know this is English. This is definitely English, but don't know. But it's a beautiful country. It's such a beautiful country.
Yes, so beautiful.
Did you go to the castle in Edinburgh?
Yes, we did the Palace of Holyrood and the Royal Mile. Oh, it was amazing. I just love it all.
Oh, absolutely beautiful. And the coldness. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you went in summer or in winter, but it's cold.
Yeah. They said actually the whole time we were there, they were like, there's an abnormal loss of rain. It didn't rain the whole time we were there. And like, even going to Ireland, we went to the Cliffs of Moher and it was the first day of the year that it didn't rain. They were blown away. So we just brought the sunshine into our trip.
Yeah, amazing. Wow, that's definitely something spectacular.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, well, I'm so excited to have you on the Natural Health Podcast and I absolutely love the topic we're going to be talking about today. But before we get there, I always like to get to know you. So I want to know, what have been the key turning points in Alicia's life to get you, where you are now?
Well, I mean, it started off not really knowing what I wanted to do for a living. Really, I didn't really know what I wanted out of life. And all I liked was sports and working out. So I took a fitness and health promotion program and it kind of led to kinesiology. And then I thought kinesiology would be the end of it. And then I just realized I love the spine so much out of basically everything we were studying. And I love movement and I love the nervous system out of everything. So it was just a natural fit to progress to chiropractic college because it's just a study of movement. It's a study of the nervous system. It's a study of the spine. And then I got out and practice is a whole different world compared to what you learned in school. Like you just learn the textbooks and then you get out into the world and you're like, oh, I'm doing everything that I learned how to do to fix this person and their life keeps getting in the way. And so you're trying to like figure out how to deal with people's lifestyles. And well, I don't have to tell you this, preaching to the choir, but it's just, like lifestyle is huge. And so that was a huge turning point for me to where I am from just being a regular general, I would say like a general practitioner or chiropractor, to starting to specialize in the nervous system and the vagus nerve specifically, because it's so badly needed. And a lot of people don't know that they need it until you describe sort of like how it feels to have your vagus nerve activated versus not. And it's just huge, especially with the world, how it is right now in 2021.
Yeah, I can definitely hear your passion. And, you know, if anyone's watching on video, I can see the spine behind you. So,
oh, yeah. There it is.
Yeah, there it is. It's interesting because, you know, I don't really come across a lot of people that say, I'm really interested in the spine. So, what part of it really got you kind of interested in it? I know you said the movement. Is it kind of how the spine moves with movement? Is it kind of what we do to our spine that we don't make the most out of it? What is it?
Well, when my passion for the spine specifically started, I got a research position at the university that I was at, and it was in a biomechanics lab half the time, and the other half the time in the cadaver lab. So what we were doing was dissecting the lat muscle actually out of the lower back, because the lat muscle is like generally known as like a shoulder muscle, like a lat pull down. Everyone knows it for sort of like pulling the arms in snug. And so I was researching low back pain and how it relates to the lat muscle. So trying to like make an argument for it being a back muscle more than a shoulder muscle. And so we would go into the cadaver lab, strip muscle fibers out of the lat muscle, and then put them under the microscope, measure sarcomere length, muscle fiber length, and then the whole muscle length. And from there, we do like mathematical equations, which I'm saying it out loud. It sounds crazy to me because I hate math, but I just got so into it. And of course, when you're dissecting, you just see everything and you're like, oh my God, like this one, it's not just about this one muscle. Like I was trying to dissect that one muscle out of the armpit first and then out of the back. And that's where you open up the back of someone and you just see the layers, and then you get to the spine and you're just like, wow, like just blown away at our basic design, basically.
Yeah, I love that you had the experience of actually, you know, opening it up and seeing what it looks like, and then, you know, doing the treatment on the patients. And then you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing here. Like, I know what muscle fiber I'm touching. And I love that. That's absolutely amazing. You're getting me excited about the spine.
Good. To this day, I can close my eyes and I could, like, if I'm looking at a patient, all I have to do is close my eyes and I can just vividly see the layers of muscles. It's just ingrained there after being in a cadaver lab for several years.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's absolutely amazing. So look, let's go and talk a little bit about optimal health and success. I always want to know what that, you know, what that looks like for you. I guess back in the days, you know, success would have looked different to you what it does now, and also optimal health. So what does that look like for you now?
Well, yeah, my life is completely different because when you're in school, in chiropractic college and university, like your health just goes down. You sacrifice your health for good grades. And
people think, you know, you're so healthy, but I'm telling you, the health individuals that are studying at uni, that are studying are the probably most unhealthiest, even though we know so much better.
Yeah, we know so much. And it wasn't until my internship when I had to start treating patients, and I was just like a weakling. I had no muscle and I was just tired all the time, but I just got used to being tired because I was sitting in lecture every day. So now to me, optimal health is balance. Like I'm no longer that like never working out and then manic working out, trying to make up for lost time. It's just all about balance, and it's honoring where I am at the specific time. And it's not trying to stick to a specific regimen. It's like, what does my body need today or this week or this time in my life? And success is the same thing. Totally balance. When you're trained to be in school and just achieve, and that's success, and you're rewarded for good grades and you're rewarded for passing. And then in the real world, I figured out I don't like the rewards for hustling. Like all you do is get drained. And
your dopamine system would have been absolutely like slammed.
Yes, absolutely. So now success to me means enjoying every single day. I'm not really trying to achieve any specific goals now. It's just like how am I enjoying my life today? How am I enjoying my work today? Because if I'm not enjoying it, if I'm just trying to achieve something that I think is 10 years down the road, that's just not success to me anymore.
Yeah. How beautiful is that? And I mean, you know, having that lake so close to you and having the boat there, I mean, that's definitely success, having that and being able to enjoy nature, right? Yeah, and getting that balance right after not getting the balance right. And
being self-employed, you sometimes you get like, oh yeah, I know. And entrepreneurially, like you're not really rewarded for taking time off from anyone. Everyone's kind of like, what? Vacation must be nice, but like that's just life.
Yeah. And sometimes I guess, you don't want to let your patients down too, because if they're booking every 2 weeks and then you're taking time off, you don't want to let them down also. But at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, but I need to look after me. I need to look after this. I need to look after this spine so then I can look after yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
That meme just came to my head of, have you seen the meme where it's got, I got your back? And the stick figures, and it takes you.
Yeah, the stick figures. Love that.
I love it. All right, let's get into today's topic. Let's talk about the vagus nerve, which is what most people are here for. They want to know everything about the vagus nerve, the secret to stress relief. To start off, let's get straight into it and talk about the vagus nerve. Can you give us a bit of a rundown? What is the vagus nerve?
Okay, so the vagus nerve is the 10th pair of cranial nerves in a 12 pairings. So it comes from the brainstem and it actually travels down the front side of your neck. And then one branch goes to the heart. Another one goes down, follows the esophagus down into your digestive tract. Now there's many branches off of those, but those are typically people know it as the heart and the gut. So it's basically the rest and digest relaxation component of your autonomic nervous system. So we have our nervous system traveling down our spine, which is what I deal with on a regular basis, adjusting people. And those are like your motor nerves, your sensory nerves to move your arms and your legs and to feel on the skin. But the autonomic nervous system controls everything that you don't have to think about. So your heart rate, your digestion, your voice, like when you open your mouth to talk your language, you don't even have to think about like the vocal cords being pulled at a certain angle to get the certain pitch that you want. That's the vagus nerve controlling that. So it all is responsive to your environment. Your autonomic nervous system is in charge. Basically, at the end of the day, it's in charge of safety or danger. There's only like two options, and those are the sympathetic and the parasympathetic sides of it. Vagus nerve being parasympathetic, rest and digest, sympathetic being fight or flight.
Yeah, well, I love your explanation of the vagus nerve, because a lot of people get confused. They're like, is it another addition on my spine all of a sudden that we figured out, that we found out? What is it? So I love how simply you defined it, and I love the aspect that it is part of our parasympathetic nervous system, which a lot of us aren't in at the moment. And I'm not even talking for myself, I'm talking about everyone in the world at the moment. Definitely not in parasympathetic mode. We're all on edge, we're all unsure about the future. And I guess that's when that part is, I guess, not so looked after. And I guess so many individuals would want to come see you to look after their vagus nerve and look after their nervous system due to that. So how is the vagus nerve the superpower that can, I guess, so let's go first of all, how would you know if the vagus nerve isn't functioning optimally? And what are some signs and symptoms? Because some individuals go, well, how do I even know if it's working or not properly? What was working properly look like?
So because it innervates so many things, you can look at it from so many different angles. So from, let's say, like a personality perspective, if your vagus nerve is, I call it sluggish, because it doesn't fully turn off, but fight or flight will always take precedence, because fight or flight will always allow you to run away from danger. So if you're stressed, let's just call your vagus nerve sluggish. So if you have a sluggish vagus nerve from a personality perspective, you are a procrastinator. You are stuck in a situation that you feel like you just can't get out of. Like it's just like a terrible situation, but you just feel hopeless. Hopeless is like the worst, the far end of the spectrum of the complete vagus nerve shutdown. And then from another personality perspective, you can just be stressed all the time. You can be over analyzing things, meaning that you're stuck in fight or flight. You're stuck in the mode of looking at everything as if it's a danger towards yourself. And then when we think about the attachments of the vagus nerve and everything it innervates, you can have a hoarse voice. So you can have that sort of lump in your throat type feeling. You can have poor hearing because it changes the pitch of the ears. You can have poor digestion for sure, because it just is all over your digestive tract. And if you're eating too fast, if you get the hiccups because you ate so fast, that's your vagus nerve trying to regurgitate the food because you ate so fast that it couldn't get any information from the macronutrients of your foods. So just a whole host. You can have cardiac arrhythmias. You can HRV is a great monitor. I think Apple watches. I think it's fairly common now to have an HRV monitor in all these devices. So if you check your HRV and it's low, so it's basically from 0 to 100. You're never going to be around 100 and you're never going to be around 0 or you'll be dead, basically. So the average, and keep in mind, I don't consider our averages to be super healthy. We've kind of adjusted our averages to our lifestyles, but they say average is about 55-ish on the HRV scale from 0 to 100. In my vagus nerve treatments, the goal is to get it to 80. And then we sort of monitor it throughout the treatment. So you can have a low HRV. That's another sign and symptom that your vagus nerve is sluggish.
Can you explain HRV just quickly to the audience?
Yeah. So when you think of your heart rate, it needs to contract to push blood out, and it needs to relax to allow the blood to come back in. So we call it a lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub. So your fight or flight makes it contract, and your rest and digest makes it relax. So you want to have that balance. And so your HRV is your responsiveness to the changes. So if I lift my arm really fast, my heart should respond. If I'm super healthy, my heart should respond really quickly instead of being delayed. And so when you have a high HRV, it means your nervous system is very responsive. You're very good at going back and forth between fight or flight and rest and digest.
Yeah, I love that. It's about adaptability, being adaptable, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
I think it was, what's that guy's name? It's a philosopher. Darwin. He said it's the ones that are adaptable, the ones that survive, something along those lines. So it goes directly in line with the HIV. It works directly in line with the vagus nerve, especially with everything that's going around. I mean, individuals listening to the podcast may have a business or they're working and they don't know what's going to happen. And exactly the personality that you said is probably what they're feeling. They're overanalyzing things. They're not responding well to things. They're either not working out or working out too much, and being in that level. And digestive issues, because they're always on edge. They're always what's going to happen next? What's going to happen? What's the government going to say? What's going to, happen? So everything you said, kind of like the sluggish, vagus nerve, kind of sounds like everyone's personality at the moment. I would say maybe 90% of individuals, that's their current nervous system at the moment. So it's interesting that you said the personality also, including the symptoms that they come up with.
Yeah, because vagus nerve is considered our, if you're building up your vagus nerve activation, you're building your self-resilience and your self-reliance. So it's like building a strong foundation of your house, so you don't wake up every day worrying about a tornado hitting. You have to build your nervous system so that it doesn't matter what's going on in the external environment. It doesn't affect you because you can't sway from that homeostasis that you built.
I love that. And that is a goal I know that's definitely a goal of mine, even emotionally being like that, physically, mentally being like that. So no matter what happens, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the individual said, when we don't allow, if we ever give anyone our emotions to make us sad, to make us happy, to make us angry, if you ever give them that means we never have control over ourselves. That means we never have control over us.
Yes.
The only person that we're given that privilege is us. No one else should get that privilege. Not your partner, not your coworker, not your boss, not the government. No one should have that. And then assisting with the vagus nerve to have that as a little thing to help you, that toolbox.
Yeah.
How amazing is that?
Yeah. I'm always amazed. I can have like a 7-figure CEO come into my office and they don't know anything about their body. And I'm thinking, like, how are you so smart? You built this business. You have like 100 employees. You're so smart and so in tune with everything to do with your career. Like, how do you have no idea what's going on inside your body? But I just think our bodies are so mysterious to us because we can't see inside them. And we're sort of a species that it's a see to believe type thing. And because we can't see it, we don't believe in it. And so people are like not trusting what they feel because they can't see it. But it's just, you have to get into your body. You have to build that resilience. You have to be able to pull yourself out of fight or flight when something's stressful.
Yeah. And I can answer that question because I have thought exactly the same thing. And I've had individuals like that. And I've actually, sat on it and I thought about it. And what came to me when I asked that question was, it's because they're disconnected from their body. They're connected to their business because exactly what you said, it's tangible, it's out there, they can control it, they can see the outcome. Whereas inside, where they're disconnected, that's the issue that most individuals, most business owners have, is they're not connected. They're not connected to this. They're not connected to their body. It does what it needs to do to get the outcome for their business, right? Because there's a money outcome, there's a community outcome, there's whatever it is that they're trying to achieve, there's a holiday outcome. But that's what I got out of it, is that they're disconnected. That's why they're able to achieve from that.
Oh yeah, that just hit the nail on the head for sure. And it's unbelievable to me that they feel like their body is out of their control, because I teach the exact opposite, is that everything that you do and you don't do is in your control. And your body is literally, your signs and symptoms that you're having are messages. It's the only way your body knows how to communicate with you. And if you just ignore the messages, they're just going to get louder.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that thought, if I ignore it, it'll go away. Oh, that little knee pain. Oh, it won't be there tomorrow. I'll sleep it off. And then comes on and it comes on and it comes on. Oh, that headache. Oh, I'll just pop that Panadol. Don't worry, it'll go away. But unfortunately, it's being disconnected and masking it. And that's what, that's what one of my missions is, to allow individuals to reconnect to their body so they can have optimal health. And Vegas, and that's why I've got you here on a vagus nerve, because that's part of it. That's definitely part of it, to understand that we're able to do it. But let's talk about, the vagus nerve, the superpower. So how can it assist with our stress? So that what we've spoken about is business professionals or anyone who's listening is absolutely stressed out. So how can the actual vagus nerve be the superpower to help us with our stress?
So it is basically the reason that you can repair any damage, that you can enhance or grow any new tissue. It's when everything in life is fine and good that there's actually time for growth. And so when you get stressed, your brain is trying to save your body, right? So it kicks in cortisol, that gets you moving. Well, you can pull yourself out of stress, but it still takes 20 minutes minimum for that cortisol to dissipate in your body. So you really have to be diligent about pulling yourself back into vagus mode, because when you are stressed, your body is just thinking about, the goal is to survive that moment. Like it's someone jumping out of the bush, or like pulling a gun on you, or, you got to run away, something. So your body's not thinking long-term. It's not thinking chronic. It's like, okay, how do we survive this second, 30 seconds, minute? So the key to the vagus nerve is its longevity. It's like, it's not just it's not just like status quo. The vagus nerve is always wanting to grow you and enhance the functions of everything. So if you have that shut down, you're not getting anywhere. You're just maintaining this threshold of stress through life, and there's no room for growth. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you said, and I believe not many individuals know, that 20 minutes for your cortisol to get out of your system and just calm you down. In animals, that happens a lot quicker, and we see it. We see it in animals. They shake it off. They're ready to go. And then we look at ourselves and we're like, why am I still affected? That happened like half
Yeah.
an hour ago.
Yeah. You can literally watch a buffalo like almost lose its life to a crocodile jumping a river. And then it gets to safety and it just starts eating again. Like humans, because our language centers and our processing centers and emotions we're so overdeveloped that we just sit and talk about the stress. Like we relive it. And you have to understand your brain is inside your skull. It only thinks what's happening based on what you're telling it and what you're showing it. So if you're reliving, if you have something stressful happen and then you tell your boyfriend about it, and then you tell your mom about it, you tell all your coworkers about it, your brain thinks that it's happening over and over and over again. And then you go to bed at night and you think about it again. Your brain literally is like, holy assault, just again and again. It doesn't know that it's any different.
Yeah. And you're right, because you're at home in a safe space that essentially you believe is safe, in your bed, you're safe. But the thoughts are making the perception is making all your hormones in your body go absolutely mental and crazy. You're laying there calm, but what's happening inside your body, in your nervous system, is like you're actually getting attacked right there and right now. And that's what people need to understand. If it's actually happening or if it's perceived, it's the same thing.
Same thing. I tell people all the time, shut the TV off when you're eating. Because if you're watching something that's telling your brain to go into fight or flight is not the time to digest properly. So you're literally eating and your body's just storing it. Like it's just storing it for a rainy day. Like it's not even dealing with the nutrients. It's not doing anything. It's just preparing to basically defecate, get everything out of you so that you can run away from something you just saw on TV happening across the world that's not affecting you. So it's huge. Even like video games, all of that with kids, it's huge. You have to understand exactly what you just said. Your brain doesn't know it's not happening in front of you.
Yeah, video games, TV, your laptop, anything along those lines, because you think, oh, it's not doing anything, but it is. It's activating your nervous system.
Yeah. Or retelling a story that happened at work to your family, and you're like telling it and stressed out and getting into the story as you're shoveling food in front of your mouth, like counterproductive.
Take that deep breath. It's kind of goes back to, if individuals aren't religious or anything along those lines, but it goes back to, back in the days when people used to do grace or prayer before they eat.
Yeah.
If you're not religious or anything, you don't have to do the prayer. You can meditate, or you can just take deep breaths. It's all about the whole concept of coming together in a loving, peaceful, calm way to prepare the nervous system in this way, also to prepare the vagus nerve, which we'll go into soon. It's just thinking about like how things used to be done. Yeah.
100%.
So why is it important to maintain a balance in the automatic nervous system? I guess we spoke about it a little bit more, but at the start you mentioned the automatic nervous system is something that we usually don't really control. So why is it important to balance it or maintain a balance?
So because it will recalibrate itself to your quote unquote new normal. So you have neuroception and perception. Perception has to do with the brain and it's based on past memories, but neuroception is literally your nervous system and its level of detection of safety or danger. So if you are constantly perceiving things that aren't actually dangerous to you, like say your boss yelled at you yesterday. So now your nervous system has recalibrated that boss is danger all the time. So you can see how that balance starts to get tipped. And so you start to tip the scales more into fight or flight, because now that's one more thing that you're going to encounter tomorrow. That's now a threat to you where it wasn't yesterday type thing. So when I say balance, I don't mean 50-50. I mean the 80-20 rule. So this like loosely 80-20. So you should be in the parasympathetic state or vagus nerve activation mode for 80% of your day. And that's 80% of 24 hours. So if you're not getting good sleep, like that's not that doesn't count. So it's 80% of the time, so that you have this 20% reserve for times of stress, times of actual danger, when you'll need to run away or you'll need to fight for your life. We have totally reversed that by recalibrating our neuroception, by constantly like taking things in from around the world. Like our nervous systems are designed for 300 years ago, when we're sitting in our little tribe village and we don't know what's happening a kilometer away. So we definitely don't know what's happening on the other side of the world. And when someone goes away, like say off to war, there's no communication. So now we have communication every second of the day. So when you don't hear from someone in a couple of minutes, you're like, oh my God, what could be happening to them? So it's just a totally different world. We just didn't have that stress before because it didn't exist to be so connected. And so we didn't have worry because there was nothing to worry about, because everything was just nature. And we're designed to have this trust that the seasons are going to come. The sun is going to rise every day. The moon is going to come out at night. There was like this trust with the natural cycles of life and the natural balance, that 80-20 of our nervous system. And we've just lost that.
I like that you said trust. That's a really key. That's a key word, especially at the moment. Like you said, we don't even trust ourselves, yet alone everyone else. We don't trust that out. Yeah. So if we want to go further, we don't trust that our body is going to be able to recover properly from an immune system or anything along those lines that we get. We don't trust it. Yeah. So we put stuff in it to be, proactive or, so we don't get it. So you know what I mean? So we take things and do things because we don't trust our body. So if we don't trust our body, how are we going to trust nature? You know what I mean? Like, how is that even possible?
Exactly.
So it goes back to exactly what you said about what can we control within this little part of us? Like, how we can reach our arms out. What can we control in that part? Every day in a way. And I love that 80-20 rule. And that kind of, like you saying the 80-20 kind of gave me a bit of a, oh my gosh, I'm definitely not there. Like that is a lot, 80% of the time in parasympathetic, because like you said, sometimes like. I
think it's like 19 hours it's 19 something, I'm pretty sure, out of the 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then imagine, so like if you're stressed, it still takes 20 minutes for that cortisol to come down. So if you encounter a stress before that, you're not coming down from that.
Like you have a meeting, your stress goes up. You don't hit the deadline, your stress goes up. You have a potential new client, stress goes up. Yeah. You get an email of a rejection, your stress goes up. Loud noise.
Because it's not the individual. Yes. Exactly. And so that's why the vagus nerve comes from the brainstem, because the amazing design of human beings is like, so if you broke your neck, let's say, you still have your 5 senses, because they all come from your cranial nerves that are not in your spine. They're in your brainstem. So the loud noise thing, that's what made me think of this, is like, this is why you have like a vagus nerve and other cranial nerves, is to detect danger. So you want to hear things, you want to see things, but then you hear it and then you realize it's just a noise, and then you come down and then your vagus nerve activity goes up. Whereas we just sit and worry about what that noise could have been and if it'll happen again.
Yeah, 100%. Like, in any office, loud noise, even light, the fluorescence light. Yes. Like you think you're not stressed, but around you, if you look at your home office or in office, you have stressful things happening all around you. A mess causes stress. The light, the noise.
Yes.
So many things cause stress. Yes. I even, I looked at research and I did a podcast episode on, and this is pretty crazy. I found research that if you face open offices, that's what I did my research on. Open offices are stress, right? They cause major stress. Yes. The reason why is because you have your back to your co-workers, which you don't trust. Back in the days, we're scared that an animal is going to come and attack us. So therefore, without even knowing, your back should always be against the wall. So therefore, without even knowing, you're calmer, right? So that's why open offices are actually causing dramatic nervous system activation. Absolutely. And research shows it.
Yes. That's very feng shui too. You can see my desk behind me. My door where patients come in is there, so that I'm not facing my back towards the wall and have them come around me.
Yes.
That's very feng shui, and that's very ancient Chinese medicine. And also the vagus nerve is that it's controlling, like your vagus nerve is detecting. Like right now, my vagus nerve is detecting your face. So if I say something and your face goes like your nervous, it's so fast. Your nervous system is like recalculating, like, back up, like re-explain that. Like it's just all happening. We're processing so much, so fast. And that's the beauty of it is, so when you can't see someone's face because your back is turned to them or they're wearing a mask, your vagus nerve isn't really getting the feedback. Because imagine it's designed to be in a tribe, and like I should be able to just look at that person and know if there's danger. And that's how our nervous systems have evolutionary developed, is to just be able to look at someone's face and know whether there's danger or not. So you absolutely, if you can't see people's faces, you just see backs, there's no feedback for your vagus nerve.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We could go so much deeper into this. This is amazing. I love it. I love it. Yep. But we spoke about sluggish. We spoke about a sluggish vagus nerve, right? At the start, we spoke about that. So how do we unsluggish it, if that's even a thing? How do we activate it? How do we exactly activate a nerve, vagus nerve? And when do we want to do that? Or why do we want to do that?
Well, I would say for everyone living in 2021, you could activate it all day long. Like you'll never overactivate it, because again, there's going to be that threshold, unless you have an underlying health condition, of course. Unless you have something like that, you can afford to activate it whenever you think to do it. It's a really great practice, especially before bed, like because you want it to be activated to put you to sleep. So you can do it before bed. You can do it when you wake up in the morning. You can do it whenever you find your thoughts racing, when you're worrying about something that doesn't need to be worried about, or you're stressing about something, or you're nervous going into something because you're overthinking it, because the center that controls your autonomic nervous system is a completely different center that controls your thoughts and your worry. So you can't have both running at the same time. So the more you activate your vagus nerve, the more you'll shut down that voice inside your head that keeps making you worry about things.
What is that pill called? Give it to me. Isn't it? That's what everyone's thinking, isn't it?
I wish there was one thing, but yes, there's so many attachments, which means it's great because there's so many options. So the easiest and like really activating, like one that's shown to activate it the strongest, is actually the gag reflex. And I think about it. So I brush my teeth in the morning, I brush my teeth before bed. So I'm activating that gag reflex every time I brush my teeth, just for the heck of it, because I know it's going to activate my vagus nerve. So vagus nerve innervates different parts of the ear. I know people listening to this can't see. So just in general, basically, if you're pushing on your ear to sort of like plug the hole, if you will, and then pushing sort of like on the floor of like when it unplugs type thing, you can push behind the ear. You can rub your earlobes. Don't worry about being extremely specific. And I have a lot of people, when I tell them this, they're like, how do I know if it's activated? Well, that's sensory innervation. So if you can just feel your fingertips on your ear, that means that's your vagus nerve telling your brain that your finger's there. So you're doing it right if you can feel it. So gag reflex, touching the ears, you can tap along the front side of the neck, just tap it to wake it up. You can tap along the collarbones. You can tap across the heart, down the sternum, and just tapping, just waking it up with that mechanical pressure on the fascia that it's sort of like interlaced with. So sort of around the jaw, backs of the ears, back of the head, where the brainstem is, sort of like at the very top of your neck. Really cool reflex. It's called the diving reflex. If you've ever heard of Wim Hof, he's like the Iceman. So vagus nerve is basically like the little structure behind everything he does, whether he knows it or not. So vagus nerve is activated when your face, and specifically the sides of your face and your ear, get splashed with cold water. Because you imagine that reptilian reflex of like hiding under the mud in hibernation. When you jump into cold water, our heart rate wants to slow down if it thinks we're being submerged in cold water. So you get an instant activation if you splash yourself with cold water. Now, vagus nerve innervates the muscles that control the vocal cords. So singing, talking in all different pitches, activating it, getting those, because these muscles basically contract and pull your vocal cord strings to make different noises. So if you're only ever monotone and activating it in one way, you could go up and down.
And it's interesting because most people who are stressed are monotone.
Monotone, yeah. Yeah, because it's just that one fight or flight, just like get the words out in the least amount of energy possible.
Wow.
Whereas vagus is like, everything is cool and calm. We can expend a little extra energy to make our voice go up and down. Everything is good. We don't have to get our message across super fast. And that's why people who are nervous talk really fast, all in the same pitch, right? Because it's a stressful time.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like I was just doing the tapping things when you were doing it. I was like, I'm so calm. Like it's crazy. Like, and I can just imagine doing that for even 2 minutes. Like I literally did it for like 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. And like, I know that when I get a massage, when the guy massages, because he does massage my ears like crazy, he goes to it and I'm just like, I'm just like a blob. I'm like, someone take me home. Like,
nice. Yes.
So he's actually activating my vagus nerve.
Yes, totally. So you should do that at the beginning of treatment too, to relax you for the treatment.
So whenever we have patients come in, we should just go stop and rub their ears and go sit down.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But the biggest one, like by far, so when I do a vagus nerve treatment on someone, they're hooked up to an HRV monitor. So I'm getting constant live feedback.
Amazing.
And the most vagus nerve consistently across the board, the most instantaneous vagus nerve activation is with breathing. So your vagus nerve is innervating your lungs, but it's not controlling your breathing. It's gathering feedback about what's going on based on how you're breathing. So if you're running away from danger, you're getting like huge, like inhalations, trying to gasp for air, right? If everything is cool, calm, and collected, you can do a really long exhale because you're not worried about the next inhale. So it doesn't matter the length of time you're exhaling. You want the ratio to double. So like, let's say you inhale comfortably for 2 seconds. You want to exhale for at least 4 seconds. If you're comfortable inhaling for 3 seconds, you want to exhale for 6 seconds. That sense? Because I started off giving people specific numbers, and then I realized that not everyone has the same sort of like expansion. It's not comfortable to breathe in for 4 counts for some people. So I just say a ratio now, just double it for the exhale, and then your brain will know that everything's cool.
I love that. Because the other day I was actually thinking, like I do, I always think about these weird things. And I was thinking, and I was like, society says when you're stressed, take a breath. No, society should say when you're stressed, exhale, not take a breath. It's so interesting because it's the opposite.
Yes.
We take a breath because it makes us more anxious.
Someone jumps out go ahead.
Yeah, when we're anxious or stressed, we're taking the breath in, and that makes us more stressed. We need to exhale.
Yes, that gasp, like when you're watching a movie, that's an inhale. It's not an exhale.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, exactly what you were saying. I love that. And I love that you actually have feedback straight away on the HIV, which what you mentioned earlier at the podcast, what it is. And I love that you get instant feedback and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of other machines that do that. They do that. They have programs where you can actually do the breathing and you get instant feedback on your laptop or on your device in regards to your HIV.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Yeah, definitely super helpful. Because remember, even if you're stressed out, you are tricking your brain into thinking everything is cool so that your brain finally comes around. So you're using your neuroception to trick your perception, if that makes sense. So if you're stressed, you can pull yourself out of stress by big exhales. I tell people that I used to work at a high intensity interval training gym, and I would have people running on the treadmill running as fast as they could. And I would tell them, make sure, I know you think you need oxygen, but you don't. Like your body's literally just using sugar right now. So do a long, slow exhale, no matter how fast you're running. Like when I'm running all out, I'm going, I'm taking in barely enough oxygen, but you can still go because you're tuning your heart in, you're slowing it down, you're cranking up your HRV. And reality is you don't need oxygen to run all out. Your fight or flight, your sugar.
Yeah. Wow. I love all of these amazing ways to kind of, work with our biology, work with our chemistry, work with our body, work with exactly what we have to, I don't want to use manipulate, but use it as a competitive advantage for longevity, which is exactly what you said the vagus nerve is. The vagus nerve is there for longevity. So if you know how to activate your vagus nerve, when you know how to work with your vagus nerve, don't worry about those anti-aging creams. You've got it right here.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
I love that. I love
if you think about all those things that we love, like good hair, good skin, good nails. Well, if you're in fight or flight mode all the time, your body doesn't care about its hair, skin, and nails because you don't need it to survive. So it's not until you're living in a vagus nerve activated state that there's room for growth of your hair, skin, and nails.
Yeah.
So you're right. Don't waste your money on the cream.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we can go into what's in those creams and how it's affecting you in a negative anyway. But that's totally a different thing.
Yeah.
So I would love to know what would be some examples when you want to stimulate the vagus nerve compared to when you actually don't want to stimulate it. Are there examples when you actually, because we hear all about this talk, it's really good to stimulate vagus nerve and make it work the way it's supposed to work. But are there any ways that you actually don't want to do that?
Well, like if you are in danger, you need fight or flight for sure. Like if you are doing, like let's say you're in the gym doing an intense workout, you do kind of want fight or flight because you want the blood to go to the arms and legs. You want to get stronger. I'm trying to think, but yeah, because fight or flight is a reserve. Like it's reserved for times of stress. So it should be vagus and parasympathetic is what's normal. Because
we're so the opposite. Because we're so much into being activated. Yeah. So it's kind of like when you're so calm, maybe those individuals that are living it, anyone that's listening, if you're living in the mountains and you're too calm, you need to put a bit of stress in your life. But that's not us.
Exactly.
And definitely most of the people that are not that are listening are not them. So for example, let's say an individual is running their own business, they're the opposite, 80-20, 80% their nervous system's activated. They can hardly sleep. They're running off sugar, running off caffeine. They're working in the office where everything's stimulating them. So they're kind of like freaked out at the moment. They're analyzing everything, exactly the personality that you said. They're analyzing everything.
Yep.
What can they do right now to actually assist them? What can they do right now? What practical tips could you give them?
Definitely the breathing. So take yourself out. I tell people the 30,000 foot above you. So if you say you're in a stressful situation at work, whether it be with someone or something to do with the business, if you just flip a switch for a second, take yourself out of it, look down at yourself going through the situation, that gives you a bird's eye view. It takes the danger out of the situation for your nervous system because you're away from it. You can see life is still going on around you despite how stressful this one thing is. Because if you make decisions in fight or flight mode, they're not rational decisions. They're safety, like trying to get away from danger decisions that you snap on your coworkers, you say too much that you didn't mean. So it's important to activate your vagus nerve. So you can do it in all those different ways. You can start tapping, you can start breathing, you can start rubbing the ears, go to the bathroom, splash water on your face. You can do all that before you deal with the stress, and then you'll deal with it from a different state of mind.
I love that. I absolutely love that. It's so interesting. I just had an imagination of, a business individual sitting in a corner, rocking up and down, rubbing her ears, tapping. People like, what is happening there?
Yes.
Vagus nerve stimulation happening. You should have a sign like, is she okay?
Yeah. Let's normalize that.
Yeah. And when you think about it, when you think about kids, right, that have chuck tantrums or kids or anything like that, or even you see them tapping, or you see them rocking back and forward or trying to release something, it's interesting. And, us as adults, we're just kind of like straight face, clown face, don't do anything, poker face, don't just let it be all inside. So it's interesting when we look at that. So I love that. I love that little practical tip that you gave, breathe, tap, rub your ears, have that anchor there and look at yourself from up above and be like, wow, you're really like you and you're more sympathetic to that individual. You look down, you go, it's all right, mate. And like that CEO that you were talking about, because he's so disconnected. If you get him to look from up above and looks down and goes, oh, you're all right, mate. Like, come on, do some breathing.
Yes, exactly. It's not such a threatening situation. It's not right in front of you anymore. You see the bigger picture, basically.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. Wow. That's so much amazing information throughout this podcast. Spoke about HIV. We spoke about the vagus nerve, when to stimulate it, when to not, how to stimulate it, even the personality of an individual when it's, when it's sluggish. You gave some absolutely amazing practical ways for us to stimulate it. I love that. I love that. So much valuable information in this podcast. So really, really do appreciate you sharing all this information with us. And look, some individuals go, well, it's so simple. But when you know the biochemistry and when you know our body, it's actually simple. It's supposed to be simple. We're not supposed to complicate it.
Yes, it's exactly right.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So look, to finish off, I ask all my guests, as this is the Natural Health Podcast, what is your best kept natural health hack? Do you have something that you do every day, every morning, every night, or once a year that keeps you on point?
Well, definitely activating my vagus nerve is definitely my individual secret. But I would say I don't really go a day without a scoop of psyllium husk because to me, the prebiotics to feed my gut. I mean, we didn't even go there with the vagus nerve. That's a whole other biochemistry conversation, but it is so, so important to have your gut in alignment because everything comes from the gut. So I make sure no matter what I either eat a cup of beans at some point during the day or a couple scoops of psyllium husk in water if I can't get beans in. I
love that. And like you said, go a whole new conversation about gut, prebiotics, probiotics, nervous system connected to the gut and everything. But it's interesting that you said prebiotics. Not many individuals even consider prebiotics because advertisement out there has probiotics, but it's kind of let's take it back a bit. So let's go down the pathway.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being on a Natural Health Podcast. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way to get in touch with you, Alicia?
Yeah, so Instagram is probably the best. So it's reset3 with a period or a dot in between each of the letters and number, reset3. And then if you want a free PDF and sign up for my informative emails, you can go to welcome.reset3.ca.
Beautiful. And I'll put all that information in the show notes anyway below so people can contact you and tell you what an amazing podcast this was and how much they've learned. Get in touch and let her know. Well, thank you so much for being on the Natural Health Podcast. I really, really appreciate it, Alicia.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you for joining us at the Natural Health Podcast. And remember, the missing link between failure and success is your health. The content and information provided here is opinion of Mahela Raguse and is for information purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. It is not intended to provide medical advice or take the place of medical advice or any current treatment you're undertaking. Consult your own medical professionals for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the Natural Health Podcast. It is advised that you consult your doctor or healthcare professional in relation to any health concerns you may be having. Mahela Raguse does not take responsibility for any health consequences which occur from a person listening, viewing, or reading this content. And in circumstances shall the Natural Podcast, Mahela Raguse, any guests or contributors to the Natural Podcast, or any employees, associates, or affiliates of Mahela Raguse be responsible for damages arising from the information provided on the Natural Podcast. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical conditions in either yourself or others. Please note, if you're taking prescription, do not stop your medication or start a new protocol, including but not limited to supplements, diet, lifestyle changes without consulting a doctor or healthcare professional. If you or any person has a medical concern, you should consult with your healthcare provider or seek other professional medical advice. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you have read or heard on the Natural Podcast or in any linked materials. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. Neither Mahela Raguse nor the publisher of this content takes responsibility for the possible health consequences of any person or persons reading or listening or following the information in the educational content.